VFW and American Legion, and one from Hudson Hall. So we'll start with reports, and we have in our midst Nick Pirro to talk about fire.
For the month of November, the fire department had 38 calls for service. 2 of them were structure fires, mutual aid. We had 6 either assist EMS or motor vehicle accidents. 3 standbys for other departments. Couple good intent calls and 22 false alarms, either due to malfunctions or somebody pulled an alarm. And as of November 30th, we responded to 434 calls of service for the year. And to date, we're at 445. So we've been pretty busy. We continue to be busy. But we're still going.
Questions from council members for Nick?
Just one, the outstanding one, we've been here on our boat lottery grant.
That was mentioned months ago that we did not
We
get it.
didn't get it at all.
So,
Is there new application windows that we know of for the spring?
no, they announced it a month before. I don't believe we're gonna go that route again.
Okay.
For some of the reasons that we were given why we didn't get it. True, all those reasons are, so I'm not gonna bring them up.
Right.
Because nothing was official in writing. It was all based on a conversation that we had with, FEMA.
Okay. So what you're saying is charity fundraiser to make that happen?
Yeah, we've got a couple other things in the works. We've had multiple conversations with Ulster County Sheriff's Office, who did get a new boat
Right.
at the beginning of the summer, trying to acquire their boat. As of 2 weeks ago, as of mid-November, it was still in the water and being used because they weren't done training on the new boat. So I don't know if they're still gonna be using it next summer, if they're done or what. Over the winter, we'll have more conversations with.
Where they get the funding for their new boat?
What was that?
Where they get the funding for their new boat?
The grant.
Yep.
Yep.
They were the winners.
No, they got it years ago. I think they received that grant 2 or 3 years ago. But through the process of building and everything else, they just received it in April of this year. But they were training with it all summer, and like I said, as of November, they still didn't have all of their guys trained on the new piece.
Are they gonna do a bidding process for the old boat?
We hope not.
They didn't know as of last time I spoke with the sheriff months ago. They're not sure. They haven't even crossed that bridge because they're not ready to get rid of it yet. So until they're ready to get rid of it, they're not gonna discuss it. Then while we're on that topic, I spoke with Tom last week after a meeting. We've begun the process of looking into the replacement of our 2006 rescue truck. We're kind of hoping within 5-6 months, we have something together. As of right now, as of last week, 24 months from time of order till delivery. So we're looking at, even if we can do something within the next 6 months, we're looking at sometime late 2025 to take delivery. And that's if it doesn't get pushed again. It was 18 to 24 months, now it's 24 months.
Was the rescue truck the one that was in the accident too? Is that the rescue truck that was in the accident at 6th and Columbia?
No, this is it's a rescue engine.
It's a bigger
It's
bigger
the-
truck, not the personal. but-
It's not the big, it's not obviously the ladder, it's the next biggest truck we have. So we're looking to shrink it down, make it easier to get around the city. That was purchased in 06 and replaced 3 trucks. So we're trying to,
So
the
20 years.
department's changed in the last 15, 16 years, so. And even at that point, that truck will be almost 20 years old when we take delivery of it. So that's what's on the horizon. And as of January 1st, Sean Hoffman will be chief of the department, replacing Tony, who's stepping aside as chief. He's gonna continue responding to calls, but not the chief anymore. Myself moving up, and Mike McCready will be joining us as car three.
Nice.
So. that's all I have.
Okay, any questions from the public? I don't see any hands online. Yes,
I have a question about fire hydrants. There's at least a few in town, more than a few in town that are out of service. Some of them have out of service tags on them, some are covered in plastic bags. When a fire hydrant goes out of service, does it necessarily need to be fixed? Or can some of them just stay out of service for good?
That is a water department question. We
You have
don't,
no-
we
you have
don't
no
maintain
idea.
them, we don't maintain them. We only use them. We know which ones are out of service, as I've answered the question in the past. They tell us which ones are out of service, and they're marked in our trucks that they're out of service, and we go to the next nearest hydrant if they're needed.
Do you ever ask when they'll be back in service? I mean, does it matter to you?
Yes and no. There are many hydrants throughout the city, so we make arrangements to use another hydrant if needed. So
So when do they come
with
back?
parts and everything else, like I just said, we're trying to spec a new truck and they're telling us over 2 years to get it. So we know parts are tough and it's tough to get things nowadays, so it's nobody's fault.
okay, thank you, Nick. Moving on, the youth department. Liz,
My voice doesn't project
I know.
as
she's
far as
come up
this,
closer, come
so.
up closer. Don't be afraid.
I'm a little afraid.
No, you're not.
So,
Sorry, before the department begins, Tom, can,
What?
I just want to make it known that I have joined at 6:05.
I saw that. Okay,
Go ahead, department.
thank you. We're gonna start just talking about youth center programs. We've had a variety of different programming over the course of the fall that I'm gonna talk about, ranging from cooking classes, art classes, dance, circus, singing, and more. We've partnered with many different organizations in the city and county to bring this programming to our participants. We've partnered with Bindlesville Circus, Art School of Columbia County, Shaker Museum, Sylvia Center, Claremont, Beautiful Racket, Operation Unite, and others. We just want to take some time to highlight our programmers because we're really grateful to them and our staff for all they bring to our youth participants. We're still averaging about 50 to 55 students for the after-school program each day, and still around an average of 20 teens each night. So the first program I'm just going to highlight is the Cooks for Health Youth series presented by the Sylvia Center. It was a 10-week program. It was geared towards our middle school aged youth. It was focusing on cooking skills and principles of healthy eating through hands-on experiences with fresh, whole foods. The lessons focused on building confidence in the kitchen while exploring new foods and working together to create a seasonal produce-forward meal. So a lot of our food came from local farms or the farm that they have right there at the Sylvia Center. Through the series, the students developed life skills such as public speaking, teamwork, and time management. And this program was funded in part by the Berkshire Tonic. I might have missed part of that, but and the participants have prepared such things as curried sweet potato and apple soup, cauliflower and black bean tacos, apple cinnamon smoothies, and Mediterranean bean and broccoli pasta. So the Sylvia Center is one of the programs that is funded by grants and their own personal donations that we do not pay for their services. Bindlesville Circus After School has been teaching our after-school children many different circus arts and skills that include but are not limited to stilt walking, juggling, plate spinning, feather balancing, and many other things. They work with 2 different age groups, so they have the younger groups at one time, the older group later, so that they can focus more on the individual needs of the participants. As kids learn and develop new skills, they're given the opportunity to experience a sense of accomplishment while engaging in a program that has been a favorite for our kids for years. The next one we're going to highlight is over the 4 weeks this November, Shaker Museum partnered with teaching artist Caitlin McBride to bring programming to our after-school program. Through this project, they were asked to consider what parts of their neighborhoods were important in the life of their community and how these buildings, businesses, and other places help people to live well and take care of each other. So working collaboratively with that information, the students created a diorama village reflecting their identified values. And this project sparked conversations and awareness around community while fostering creativity, small motor skills, and ordered thinking. Shaker Museum was able to bring this project to us free of charge with support of the New York State Council on the Arts and the Office of the Governor and New York State Legislature. And the next slide is just a little final project, which looks a lot better in person. Another program we're going to highlight is working with the Art School of Columbia County. And so for those of you that may remember, we did something with them last winter where they actually worked with us to offer scholarships to a few students to go to their center in Ghent, and they got to have lessons with an artist who taught them about different mediums, and they created a little portfolio, which we're hoping to partner with them again to do that this winter as well. But right now, they bring in art teachers who are practicing professional artists who specialize in their field of teaching. Their approaches for teaching art to be user process oriented, emphasizing opportunities to become familiar with the media that they're using, whether it's working with clay or paints or something else. The young people in these classes are encouraged to explore their interests, and while doing so, also develop lifelong skills. Throughout those creative processes, social emotional learning becomes a component in their development as well. And the art teachers create a supportive studio environment that is conducive to young people working cooperatively, which emphasizes one another's creative pursuits. So it's really a joyful class to be in. And the next slide is one of the self-portraits that one of our students did that I thought was really beautiful. We got it hanging at the youth center now. We're also going to highlight the work we've been doing with Operation Unite. Anna, I don't know how to say her last name, Maida and Elena Mosley have been coming in to teach a fusion dance, fitness, and literacy class. So in the class, they teach children different forms of dance, and then they bring in a book that they'll read together that ties into where the dance is from or something about the different cultures that they're learning about through that dance that day. Elena Mosley has also been coming in with some of her Operation Unite staff and doing arts and crafts on Mondays with the children around the celebration of Kwanzaa. So you'll see those decorations around the youth center if you stop by as well. Just a few more, it was hard to not highlight everyone. So we've also been doing programs with Claremont that we started last year with a lot of field trips. We'll either go to Claremont and do something at their historical site, or they'll come to the youth center and work with us. The activities are always hands-on opportunities for our children where they learn about local history and agriculture. They learn new crafts or cooking skills, and almost every lesson ends with a final project that they can eat or take home. Our youth work on their communication skills, their problem solving, and the decision making while having fun, engaging in the full scope of whatever they're working on. So they get to be a part of every bit of the process. You'll see they processed walnuts and I don't remember what the other kind was, but they processed these nuts and then they broke them down and then they baked with them and made cookies, which was really cool. It's one of the things they did. And then last one for today. Beautiful Racket has been working with our youth in many facets. So on top of all the opportunities to write, perform, and edit films and create movies that I've talked to you about, Beautiful Racket also gives our youth the opportunity to express themselves creatively through songwriting and music. They've been given the opportunity to work with a vocal coach to produce the songs fully. So they write their own beats, they write the lyrics, they put them together, and then they get to perform their songs. And if you guys were at Winter Walk, hopefully you got to see some of the performances that they did. So again, we're just grateful to our programmers that come in. They're mostly volunteer, grant funded, or paid for by Friends of Hudson Youth. The opportunities to play, learn, experience, and accomplish offered by each programmer that comes in are invaluable to our participants. And we're looking forward to continuing with these programmers and offering more and diverse programming opportunities as we continue into next year. So all the programs that you just heard about happen on top of our regular activities. And so just give a shout out to our rec attendants who are working with the staff, with the kids every day. They're in the games room where they're constantly playing pool or knock hockey or ping pong or foosball. We've got a TikTok mirror room where the kids go in, they have space to be creative and dance and sing and play music. We do homework help every night. And then there's a lot of other activities. Uno is a big thing. And so I just wanted to also, while we're highlighting programmers, shout out all the work that the rec attendants do with our kids as well.
Okay.
I got more.
Oh, cool.
That was the last program. Just a reminder, Youth Basketball League is starting up again. Technically, our registrations have closed, but we're still taking last minute registrants. We don't want to turn anyone away. We just need to be able to form teams and figure out a schedule. So we're excited to bring it back. COVID put a stop to it for a while. Had a lot of signups, especially among our younger kids, which is really exciting. We're doing skills and drills for the really young kids, trying to build back that foundation and get the skills at the younger age so they're ready when they get to the team level in middle school. Yeah, so if you want to play, or if you know a child that wants to play, you can email us at programs@cityofhudsonyouth.com, or you can call us always at 518-828-0017. Numbers on the website, city website. But yeah, we're excited to get that going. It's going to start in January. So if you do know someone who needs last minute registration, give us a call. We also,
City of Hudson Youth is not on Rackspace, is that correct?
on what?
On Rackspace?
Right, there was something.
Right, so. if
Oh
you
yeah,
wanna-
our emails still work.
Right. that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
You can still email
That
us.
Still works.
Cool. This last weekend also, we started pickleball classes, and we partnered with the Senior Services Commissioner, Nia McKinney, to bring those. We had a fair amount of registration last week. It was really cool. We're doing youth through senior participants. And so as of right now, we still have space for our class on this Saturday. All the information can also be found on the city websites. And if you want to play, just call and register. You do have to be registered ahead of time. And it was really fun. And if it goes well, we're going to try and continue to have pickleball be an option. If you haven't played, it is really fun, I promise. Yeah, you should sign up.
Yeah. I'll do that.
Perfect. I'll save you a spot. And then Oakdale updates. The last remodeling event was a success. A lot of the goals were met, and there was a real full circle feel. We were able to see plants that have been planted in the spring that were still thriving. The invasive plants were taking up less space, and hopefully all the volunteers were able to look around and feel a sense of accomplishment for all the work they put into the park this year. And I look forward to starting up again in the spring and can't wait to see what we accomplish. And I just want to talk about this picture for a second, because I know it's like an odd picture to have. If you guys remember the community day we did with the middle schoolers from Hudson, we handed out seed packets at the end, and the kids were really excited, and they traded them, and it was almost like Pokemon cards or something. Someone must have spilled their carrot seeds, because we have this carrot growing out from underneath the pavement right by the pavilion. So for those of you that are nervous about starting a garden, it'll grow anywhere. Don't be scared. Just a few final things this week. This past week, Calvin and I met with a representative from both the Sheriff's Department and the Fire Department. With the goal of updating our safety plans for the youth center and our participants. We're continuing conversations with both groups and plan on having training sessions. One presented by the Sheriff's Department that will focus on managing crisis situations with a focus on how to respond in an active shooter situation and how to administer first aid in an emergency situation. We also discussed with Sean from the Fire Department the need for volunteers, and we're going to do a few activities with them. They're going to come show off their ladder truck. We're going to take some kids on a field trip, hopefully get a little bit of interest and teach the kids more about the fire department, what they do, and what the opportunities are for junior firefighters. So, and that's it.
Well, thank you, Liz. Any questions from council members first?
No questions, just amazing.
Well,
Thank you.
Who's that?
Second.
Vicky?
yes. So, sorry, I'm trying to figure out with the left hand. Liz, very impressive, all the activities you're doing here. Question is, how do you manage between COVID, flu, and the other RSV virus? Because it's gonna start becoming an issue coming up.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of kids missing, or have they started?
Well, our numbers have stayed pretty steady. We do ask that our staff and our programmers wear masks when they can, just to make sure that we're not having extra germs in the building, but the kids are around each other all day. And so we're doing the best we can. We've got hand washing stations. We make sure the kids wash their hands before meals and snacks, and doing the best that anyone can do in season. So
Do you have an air purifier down there?
we do not.
We just got one at work and it works great. I do have a question. So with the pickleball, did you search out an alternative location? Because that is,
Yeah,
questionable because it is a site for ADA compliant and now we're inviting the community to come into a place that's not compliant. Did you search out other sites to hold the event?
we were contacted kind of as the other side. The senior center didn't really have anywhere else to take it. But I do know that if someone does have issues accessing our site, there are a lot of community pickleball opportunities that I've been informed of that I can help direct them to.
Right. Yeah, I get that, which is great. The issue is that, our settlement agreement, because some sites could have been the school, the church, maybe even if you provided transportation, maybe the falls, and maybe they would have gave their gym up for free with the partnership with their residents. So you would have more attendance. It's just a thought. We have to think differently on when we do these events on accessibility. They're great events, but we don't want to get hung up on our settlement and, all it takes is one person and we're liable. So I don't want to be, repeating the record, but it is something that we really need to think ahead when we do programming and search for alternative sites.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions from council members? Claire? Public.
How are you? Liz, did I hear you correctly when you said that there is an average of 20 kids that participate in the teen program? And is that per night or like through the month?
It's like an average per the week, about 20. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. It depends on what's happening. A lot of times if there's like a basketball game or something, we get much less. But that's an average per week, I'd say.
Okay, thank you. And I know, we just hired an executive director of county youth. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of partnerships we can create around programming and teen programming specifically.
Sounds good.
So Tom, I just wanted to thank Liz for her presentation and for the incredible work that she's doing. I have no questions.
Margaret.
Okay. And that looks like that's all for Liz.
All right. Thank you very
Liz.
much.
Thank you.
Hey, Heather Campbell? Heather, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Do you mind if I bumped you to later and let the chief go since he's present here?
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't know what order I was in anyway because I don't have email.
Okay, that's good. Oh, you're last. Chief, please.
Thank you, Tom. I didn't expect to be moved up.
Oh,
I appreciate that.
trying to help you out, and now you're telling me we can't do it.
No, I appreciate it. Of course, the email wasn't working, so I do have some handouts, old fashioned handouts. This is the crime statistics. Looks like you got a little extra there.
Thank you, Chief.
Whoa.
Oh, sorry.
Chop liver?
Sorry.
I apologize.
These are basically the arrest statistics, if anyone's interested. Well, it was a pretty decent November, it's turning into a interesting, busy December. I'll start off with the standard reporting. Is we reviewed, I counted quickly here, about 114, 115 body cameras. The report will be submitted to the mayor, which shows the comments regarding each viewing for behavior, good, bad, and different behavior. And that's a mandatory report requirement that has been done. Next is the monthly reporting of statistics, various statistics. We start off with the use of force incidents, of which there was 3. One was an incident where a taser was pointed and not used. And another incident was two other incidents where the police department used physical force to subdue subjects with no injuries to the police or the defendants. No duty to intervene instances. We saw 57 arrests for the month of November, a total of 89 charges, which is more or less our average even for warmer temperature. We had 8 interactions with emotionally disturbed people. And they're delineated the locations of those on the back. And there was no instances, thankfully, of drug overdoses or use of Narcan. If you take a moment to go over the various charges, we did have a DWI, targeted DWI enforcement over the Thanksgiving holiday, which had 3 DWI charges. You'll see the only numbers that seemed to spike there was open containers and trespass violations, which was due to additional enforcement in our parks for the unsheltered people and various people that were transient people through our 7th Street Park and other locations. They're there for your review. The numbers are there for your review. And of course, I'm open to any questions about that anytime at my office or tonight or whatever. Regarding our activity over the November month, on the 1st of November, we were inspected, our holding cell was inspected by the Commission on Correction, which we passed and were recertified for another year. I mentioned the targeted enforcement over the holiday, which was successful. Throughout the month, we field tested some portable cameras to use in the city, video cameras, which we think will be helpful for crime prevention and also prosecution of crimes. And we did budget for a certain number of cameras. And if you remember the conversation, we're going to start off with a few cameras and perhaps add on instead of hitting the city with a big expense to outfit the entire city. We thought we'd get a system that could be added on over time. And addressing one of the concerns from last month's meeting was drivers and school buses. We did a 3-week detail on Columbia Street in front, utilizing marked and unmarked units off and on for a three-week period. We found no violations. However, in talking to people, seems to be a misunderstanding that if a school bus is stopped on Columbia, whether or not motorists are required to stop on Front Street. So, which they're not. So we did talk to a lot of folks down there, and we're going to move the operation up to Paddock for the month of December, which is another concern for traffic backing up and queuing up there for the middle school. So the other thing I want to address is I think what is everybody's mind, especially the last couple of days. There's two actual things that we're concerned with. Back in October, we had a senior citizen who was assaulted by some juveniles. It's been the talk of the town. What are we doing? And thought I would update you the best way I can. In that we've identified the juveniles involved in this, and we've been through the current legal system as to what to do with juveniles. Juveniles, some people have a misunderstanding that juveniles can be arrested for a non-qualifying crime. They can. It's more or less a civil action. So we're moving forward to that, utilizing the county attorney under the new set of laws for youth and adolescent offenders. The county attorney takes a pivotal role in that to address the charges and see if it's going to go into family court, probation, or whatever. That incident, which we were talking about, the assault, was also followed by a very bad incident that was well publicized on November 29th, which was, I'll call a home invasion down at HTA. All this involved juveniles. So the question has been, okay, what are you doing? And what can be done? In that instance, the 29th, we have identified the people involved, and that's going to be a mixed mash of probably charges levied, adults, maybe perhaps some adults, and mostly minors. But this is a greater concern for the police department. I think the city, We've contacted local law enforcement and all agreed to have some kind of a roundtable or task force to sit down with not only law enforcement, but members of the school district, perhaps someone from the city council, to identify, first of all, some of the hard cases that we see this behavior ramping up since the summer, and see if there's some alternative approaches that we can use to address the problem with the specific number of juvenile that are getting involved. It seems to be in worse and worse crimes. So we were setting that up. We were in the middle of setting that up. And of course, we had two very bad instances. One on December 2nd in the afternoon, just before 6 o'clock, where shots were fired at Prison Alley at 2nd Street. And then we followed up just here on the 10th, where shots were fired up Warren Street, striking the windows of the Maker Hotel. So fortunately, we don't know if the two are related. There's certain evidence that points that they might be. But the first thing your police department did is we contacted all local law enforcement to show visible patrols in that neighborhood specifically. We have we borrowed from the sheriff's office a mobile command post, which will serve as a temporary satellite and warming station for the officers to be on foot patrol in that neighborhood, to be high visibility. We've got cooperation with the sheriff and the troopers to put additional patrols into the city. The other aspect of that is to try to resolve and investigate what happened and who is responsible. I can't get into a lot of the details, but I want to make the pledge, as I did in 17, that every asset that's available will be used. We're considering a very serious thing that's going on here, and we'll do everything within my ability. If the city can show a little patience, we will get to the bottom of this and try to prevent this from happening again. We've had it, we saw how bad it got in 17. We certainly don't want it to escalate. But I can't speak as to what assets we brought in so far, but I will follow up with the city leaders as to what progress we're making on both things, the juvenile issue, but also this ramping up of violence. 9mm bullets being shot up Warren Street or in the alleys is got our attention. We've been working basically around the clock since it's happened, and we will be successful in getting to the bottom of it. Winter Walk was successful, not a single ball. So we're other than that, I think that's all I have for you right now.
Chief, I don't know how to phrase this question precisely, but does the state liquor authority get involved in any dimension with this?
They can. We're looking into whether certain establishments played a role. And if they are, a report will be made to the state liquor authority, as we have in the past.
You make that report?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I.
Yeah, we've seen that in old adage in police work that not much good happens after midnight. But when we get into very late hours, generally it's when these things happen. That shooting was at 1:40 in the morning, and the bars were still open. So we look, and I met with restaurant owners this morning, and I'm hoping to address them. And they're putting together a little meeting for me to get an update and presentation. But I think there's things that can be done on the SLA side to try to, if we can correlate what's going on with what's going on in their bars. So far, they've been cooperative.
Thank you. Council members, I see Theo has a question.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. You mentioned that there was going to be a sort of a interdepartmental sit down with not just the police department, but different members. I was just hoping you could just speak more to that, what that looks like. Is that still in the books? Who's involved? At what point will invitations be going out to involve people in those discussions? Because it obviously involves, yeah, a lot of different departments at this point.
Yeah, we see there are limitations within the current legal system to rein in certain behavior. So we wanted to take an approach that wasn't just singularly what can the police department do, but to bring in, let's say, someone from the school, perhaps the family court, elected official, youth groups, whoever we can get together to have a roundtable. We know that it's only a small minority of kids. But apparently there's problems at the school district too with behavior. I mean, what happens in the school district also happens in our streets, but we see a ramping up of bad behavior. So the question is, what can we bring to bear? So when we have a moment, we'll put it together. We'll extend an invitation to city council, but I would like to see not just the law enforcement in, but also the folks that are outside the law enforcement, criminal justice box that can also give suggestions and ideas. So, but I would say that that's a serious concern for the city right now is young people getting in trouble.
Chief, can you add color on that?
Sure, yeah, I will, you were on that.
Just want to make sure.
Other council members?
Yeah, thanks for that explanation, and just please, yeah, would be very curious to know when that happens, and just, yeah, let us know. Would be curious to really hear that conversation.
Chief, I just have one thing. I appreciate your department and especially the other agencies coming to our help. I understand the deputy was injured, coming to respond to our residents' safety. So I do appreciate during this time what your officers are out there doing 24/7. And I noticed it firsthand many times. And I do appreciate it. And I do appreciate the other agents coming in and helping your department.
I appreciate that. You know, the sheriff is very good. The troopers, local troopers are very good at giving assets when these things flare up. And they're right on board again as usual. It's unfortunate about the deputy, but he was coming to the city of Hudson to help us. So I owe him appreciation. I have talked to him and he's back at work.
Any other council members? Online or here?
Oh, you know, I forgot one more thing. There was a D&T concern. I think Malachi had a request for 4th and State for a no turn on red. And then there was an issue over at Paddock for a stop sign over there. All those are going to be taken up by the commissioner and DPW.
Great. Claire, you have a question?
Yeah, Chief, thank you for, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Chief, thank you for your report. I want to first talk about what you've highlighted with the home invasion down at the Hudson Terraces. And I know that a lot of the community has had concerning feedback around the young people in the terrace. And I just want to take a moment to just put some responsibility and accountability back on the city and the county when it comes to how we invest in our youth. I think that there are some missed opportunities that we're taking. And I think when we have these extreme instances, it's easy to sort of lump it all together in violence overall in the city. But in reality, it is from a lack of investment. There's not enough programs that sort of catch all of the kids that may not necessarily be the most engaged in school or a standout athlete or interested in gardening and farming. And those kids are slipping through the cracks, and this is the direct result of that. And I think your roundtable discussion is a great start to getting some of those conversations going. But I think when we talk about budgets on a city level and, you know, partnering with the county and finding more funds, that's sort of my hope in where we're going next. But I want more folks than just the commissioner of youth or, you know, the executive director of youth to understand when these issues arise, we all should be taking a collective effort to figure out how we can support. If it's more money, if it's volunteering our time, if it's actually showing up to the youth center to see what kids are showing up, what kids are you see down on Front Street hanging out, instead finding out what we can do as a community to really pull together. Some of those kids might not ever step foot in the youth center, but it's still our responsibility to make sure that through the youth center, there's something for them, right? There's something that they can be engaged in. And I think that that's been missing for a few years now, that extra step. It seems like above and beyond, but when you do youth work, you understand that that is literally one of the biggest parts of your job, is that you are available and willing to do the quote unquote extra for the youth. These are kids. And what they did is unspeakable, and it broke my heart to see that it's gotten that far, but these are 14 to 18-year-old young people. Just remember who you were as a young person and the mistakes that you had either the opportunity to make and learn from in a safe place or didn't, and the hard lessons that you learned from not having the opportunity to make those mistakes. I'm very passionate about youth, so I hope that people hear this criticism as something that I'm willing to be a part of the solution, and I've always been a part of figuring out how to have these conversations when it comes to kids. But we need to think of them as people that are soon to be adults with us, and we can either invest in these kids and get them someplace where they can find success and want to be a part of this community, or we can continue to talk about them in a way where they're a detriment to our community and push them away. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cousin. Anyone else?
Chris Perry, building owner at 256 Warren. My wife Catherine Dwyer and I just wanted to thank Chief Moore for his efforts in advance, for his efforts regarding the shooting on Friday. That took place very close to our building, in effect in front of our building. And from our perspective is an escalation in what we have witnessed as increasing violence, specifically at the corner of Warren and Third. And we're hopeful that this will shine a very bright light on this problem. But again, we just wanted to express our thanks to the chief.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else? Yes.
Hey, Chief, I'm a little confused by something that Sergeant Miller told me in this room in August after I voiced my displeasure that no mention of the July shooting here in Hudson was made for either the July report or the August report. And what he said was that HPD cannot comment on shootings that are being investigated in the city of Hudson. And I want to know, is that true?
No, I mean, I think there's a communication issue there, Bill. I can talk about things. I'm also very guarded about what I talk about, because like, I'd love to tell you a lot about our investigation and kind of show the effort that we're putting in so that folks can understand, hey, you know, you're really trying. But I also have to be guarded because it is a criminal investigation. I don't want to give away information that might help the people that are, you know, acting this way. I don't want to give them any edge. And then with prosecutions now, I don't want to somehow mess up our prosecution for the DA's office by opening my mouth. So the only thing I can do is like before, which is just hope that you folks that we've built up enough trust that you know that I'm giving it my best effort. And that's really why I'm here tonight, is to tell you that we're aware of what's going on. We're bringing in lots of assets, and we're going to work very hard on it. We're not going to slough this thing off.
So going forward, is there anything preventing the HPD or you at the meeting from, at the very least, mentioning that a shooting happened in the previous month?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can expect a mention of a shooting anytime.
You've gotten your answer, Bill. Come on.
Yes, thank you.
And just for correction, it's Lieutenant now, that's our.
Noted.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay.
Yeah, Tom? Sorry, I'm trying to start my video.
Okay.
I just want to thank Chief Moore for his briefing and for his openness and transparency in relating to this. And as a community member, I really appreciate that, Chief Moore. Thank you.
Well, okay. With that, thank you, Chief. Thank you. Move on.
Thank you, Chief.
Heather,
Yes, sir.
you can call me Tom. You're up next.
Okay. I don't know if it is, if the report is able to be streamed on your end. I cannot do it on my end because I couldn't send it to myself because I have no email.
Okay.
I did provide it, so I know it's online. So actually, I can probably go online on the website, pull it up. Oh, there you go.
Team's on it.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. This is going to be
Take it away.
relatively short and quick. Because December, you know, between trying to get the tax bills out and dealing with the incoming delinquent school taxes and trying to get certain things that have to be done before the close of the fiscal year from a cash standpoint, which is different from a revenue and expense standpoint. There's just sort of a lot going on. So we've got our basic numbers that we've been looking at on a regular basis. I did go ahead and add what the approved 2023 budget was for some of these items, so we can take a look at those and compare to see how aggressive or non-aggressive we were in the 2023 budget numbers. So the first thing is on and off street parking. You can see that for 2022, we budgeted 140. Year to date, we're at 153, so 109% of the budget. We budgeted 150 for 2023, so that's looking like a number that should be pretty comfortable to achieve. Front Street Municipal Lot, as you know, this was the one that was probably the hardest hit revenue line of any of them due to COVID, because people were not commuting in and out. So we had a very conservative number for the 2022 budget. You can see that we're blowing that away. And you can see that the 2023 budget of 225,000 looks like it should be more than comfortably achieved. In terms of parking and other permits, there's not a lot of variability in that. We budgeted 50,000 in 2022. We're currently at 53, so we're going to make that number and a little bit more, obviously.
You're muted, Heather.
Heather? We lost you.
That was it.
Oh, boy.
Do you think she's still talking?
I mean,
I would be.
Heather, can you
Is
hear
it on
us?
our end or?
We can't hear you. Somebody want to text Heather? Oh, she got off, so she must be trying to get back on. Let's see how she gets back on.
Is Rob Perry waiting in queue here? Is he not?
Bill, don't speak out of order, please. Do you hear from? Did you check that?
I guess. Just try to-
I'm trying to reach him out. Technology is selling us a lot this month, right there, and
Oh, he's the chair. Goes over there.
Has someone sent Heather a text to let her know she's not on?
Yes, we have.
I did already,
Good.
she's trying to get in.
Good, thank you.
Mhm.
Who are these people? Where's she sent it? Who are these people? So we can, yeah. We can. I think we'll just skip ahead to Rob Perry and come back to this when she gets back on. Will you text her that, please, Ryan?
Yeah.
Rob?
Yep,
Okay, you're up.
ready. Okay, so subject revenue for October was $41,000. Keeps us on pace for meeting our revenue forecast for 2022. These are part of the main effluent pumps at the second South Front Street pump station down by the Amtrak lot. And just to give you an idea of what it is that the collection system picks up, there's bricks, which the brick are from the collection system, most probably. There's this that looks like cloth and mesh is actually rags, t-shirts, wipes, things of that nature. And then you've got, leaves and brush, things like that. So, whether it's coming from from businesses or whether it's coming from households or the streets, there's quite a bit that gets into our combined system. And it's an ongoing process to, maintain these pumps and get them cleared. So just a quick little overview on that. The Front Street project and the stormwater project for Front and State Street is complete. So the last phase that took place at the end of the month was the milling and paving. So you have milling. This is milling of State Street. And then there was some restoration as well. And at the end, a new road for that portion of Front Street from Columbia to Dock, basically. And the same for one lane on State Street from Second down to Front Street, and then partial restoration where we went into the road on the north side of State Street. Let's see. All right, for water, we had a water break last month. This one was at 4th and State. Sometimes we can get the valves to hold completely to isolate it, and sometimes we can't, which means that they have to do it under pressure. So this is something they kind of fabricated a number of years ago, keeps the water out of their face. There's a pump off to the side. And then when they put the sleeve over it, well, somebody gets pretty wet. But it's all part of the process. The sleeve was put on and the break was completed. And this was a week ago Sunday, I believe. We're seeing some high raw water turbidity, which is basically the clarity of the water coming in from the reservoir. Typically it's around 2 NTUs, and we're seeing it almost twice that at 3.5 to 4. So there was some questioning if we could do a second pipe cleaning of that line to perhaps get some more of the organics out of the transmission main from Churchtown to the plant. But we had an issue with one of the valves pressurizing the pig, so we just ended up pulling it out, and we'll revisit again in the spring. In the plant itself, we've had some mechanical issues with these are called rotork actuators, and essentially there's a valve in here that looks like a hockey puck on a stick, or a lollipop, and it, when it turns one way, the valve's closed, and when it turns the other way, it's open. It's called a butterfly valve. This whole node over here is actually kind of the brain and the motor for it. So it's a smart valve. It opens and closes as it's required throughout the process, whether how much flow the filter needs or doesn't need. And we're seeing a lot of issues where they're getting stuck in the open position. And in this case, it was stuck at 19%, which is not enough. Usually it's around 75 or 80% under most operations. So we did replace one of these, and We also had some program and control issues, but seems to be identified or all set now. And that's that. Now. So we did our chemical bids opening. And it was our annual bid. We did it last month. And these are the chemicals that we use between the water and the sewer plant. Most of them are for the water plant. You can see the price increases, which are here from 2021, 22, and 23. But I've actually done a little spreadsheet that shows, you saw from 21 to 22, a 50% increase, a 75% increase. And then from those prices, you saw another 70%. This is sodium hydroxide. And this one here is sodium hypochlorite, which is the chlorine disinfectant that's part of the regulatory requirement to disinfect our water supply for drinking water. It's also used at the sewer plant for disinfecting the effluent before it goes into the Hudson River. So we have, you can see that over 2 years, that sodium hypochlorite has gone up almost 300%, hydroxide up 1.5 times. So we're seeing, it's supply chain issues. It's, it's just what we're seeing more of. So these are, these would normally go up 5 or 10% a year. And, this year, some of them doubled, which obviously has an impact on our operations. We had made an application for the WIA Water Infrastructure Improvement Program to upgrade the water mains for North 3rd and Robinson Street. That application was submitted.
Really?
Rob?
Where are these people?
Rob,
He's not responding.
has Rob been muted?
Oh. He's not been muted. No one has been muted. Who is speaking?
Yeah, hi, this is Heather. I'm back again. I can say that all of the problems are squarely on the interwebs fault. We lost connection entirely and it is now back on my side. So the same thing might have been happening to him.
Okay.
Since he lives down the street, it could be the thing. So let's go back to Heather.
Ping pong.
Okay. So where were we? Yeah, so overall, if you look at the parking revenues, it looks like an aggressive increase versus the prior year budget of 806,000 versus 685. But we did see a very healthy rebound in the Front Street Municipal Lot. We have no reason to think that that is not going to continue. And all the numbers look pretty much in line. And you can see that we're 13% above where we were a year ago, so that ties. In terms of building and building permits and plumbing permits, again, you can see that it is a relatively significant increase. The 2022 budget versus the 2023 budget, increasing from 167.5 to 2010. But you can also see that year to date, we're already at 199,000, primarily because of building permits. Plumbing permits are a little lower, but they're also, 1/10 of the total revenue of those two permits. So it doesn't have as significant an impact. There are a number of pretty significant building, what would you call them? Construction events that are going to be occurring in the city. So we as BEA felt pretty comfortable with that building permit number being increased. And again, you can see that we are 28,000 higher than a year ago. So that also serves to support that point. For sales, mortgage, and lodging tax revenues, you can see that sales tax, we're at 1.758 million. That's with 3/4 of the payments in. We will get our fourth payment generally sometime in January. It gets charged back. We're at 76% of budget, which is roughly where we want to be, and 78%. Given several of the communications that have been shared with you all in the past several months in terms of the reallocation of sales tax involving New York City and some of the directives that have come out of the county level, we chose to keep that number flat. I think if I remember correctly, we would need to make about $578,000 in the fourth quarter of 2022 to make our 2022 number. So we shall find out in 6 to 12 weeks whether or not that number looks good. We did get our second mortgage tax payment in. As a reminder, we get those 2 times a year. We in 2021, we received $321,000, almost $322,000. We budgeted $125. We came in at $263 for the year. So that was an increase of about 17% over the budget, but was still, almost 20% less than what we received in 2021. It's a very variable number. So if you look at the past, 8 years, you can see it really fluctuates. It can fluctuate by $100,000 a year at any given time. So we do our best to estimate. We kept it flat as well at $225. So hopefully that will be achievable. And then lodging tax is where you're going to see the biggest significant increase. We were at about $500,000 and $221. A lot of that was charged back. So when we were in the process of doing the 2022 budget, the numbers did not look nearly as strong. So we budgeted $300,000. We're at $416, and that's through October only. So we have 2 more months. We just haven't had a chance to reconcile the November yet. So I wasn't able to add that into this. But based on those numbers and based on looking at what percentage of lodging tax comes in, in each month through the year, it's obviously not consistent, but November and December tend to be decent months in terms of the amount of lodging tax that comes in. So you can see that we budgeted $550,000 for that, significantly higher than the 2022 budget of $300,000, but not so significant when you look at the fact that we're at $416,000 through 10 out of 12 months in 2022. And that's pretty much it on the finances. 2 resolutions that I think were actually made live tonight. One is small and one is kind of big. The small one is just that the youth director and the director of Friends of Hudson Youth and I sat down maybe a couple weeks ago and sort of reviewed where we all were collectively in terms of the FOHI donations, because obviously we all need to make sure that that money is being recorded correctly and being tracked, and make sure that it's being used for the purposes for which it was donated, for both the city and FOHI's cause. We did find a couple of anomalies, nothing major. It's something that has happened before and may happen again. Basically, we do the encumbrances generally in February, but the departments have until March to charge back. And what that means is they've incurred an expense in the prior year. They don't get the invoice until the next year. We keep the books open for about 3 months, so those departments can charge back those expenses to the actual year in which they were incurred. That is the appropriate thing to do. But sometimes what happens, as happened in this case, is we will set the encumbrances based on where the numbers are at the time the resolution is done, and then another chargeback happens after that, but before the books are closed. So that happened a couple times with FOHI donations. It's a very small amount. I'm just trying to pull my paper copy here in front of me. It's a little over $500 in one account and a little over $700 in the other account. So FOHI and we agreed that we should adjust the encumbrance accordingly to make sure that the number that was brought over from 2021 to 2022 matched what was actually available at the end of the year. And that will probably happen more often, particularly when it comes to donations. The second resolution that you're going to see is somewhat unusual. Because it is basically a resolution requesting that the Common Council waive penalties on a delinquent tax bill. And let me tell you why that's unusual. There is a lot of real property tax law that says you can't do that. Not that you can't do that, I can't do that. If I do that, I'm held personally responsible. I can like literally, they can come after me financially if I waive penalties because I'm not allowed to do that. And the basic logic behind that, and that's real property tax law, section 922, is basically, as a property owner, the state assumes that you, as a property owner, know that you are responsible for property tax. And even if you don't get the bill in the mail, you know you owe property tax, and it's your job to reach out and get your tax bill information and pay it on time. And if you do not, that is you as a taxpayer's responsibility. That's pretty much the entire argument of real property tax law, section 922. And we adhere to that religiously, much to people's chagrin. So, you know, if there's the wrong mailing address, if the post office doesn't deliver it, if it just doesn't show up in any case, it is still your responsibility as a property owner to know that you owe taxes and to seek out what that information is and to pay it on a timely basis. I don't believe I have ever come before the council before and requested that property tax penalties be waived. And I will tell you why. There is another real property tax law, which is section 1182, that does in fact allow the governing body of a tax district to determine that if it's in the best interest, they have the power by resolution to authorize the enforcing officer, i.e. me, to permit the cancellation in whole or part of any interest, penalties, et cetera, and so forth. The reason why you are seeing this is because...
Sorry, Heather.
Yep, go ahead.
The only thing I'm seeing on my screen right now is the last page of the various.
Margaret, is the resolution. We haven't posted it.
I'm not seeing it on my screen.
It's not there. Heather is telling us about something we shall see in the near future.
Sorry.
Heather is showing us something that we're going to see in the near
She's not
future.
showing us yet. She's telling us about it. Yeah.
Yes.
Heather, are you sharing something that I'm not seeing?
No, I don't have the ability to share that right now. It is a resolution that you will be reviewing with the rest of the resolutions in a short while from now during the regular Common Council meeting. I'm just trying to give some background to it, but I will stay online. So when you actually have resolution in front of you, I will be able to answer any additional questions you have.
Yep, understood. Thank you very much.
Okay. So basically, the reason why this is an exception is, as most of you should know, the school district is its own taxing district. It issues its own tax bills and it does its own collections, but it only does it for about 4 months out of the year. After that period of time, the school tax bills get distributed to either the county or to the city, depending on where the property is located. And I'll just focus on the city, obviously. We become responsible for collecting delinquent school taxes. It's the law. It doesn't make our office happy. It's a lot of work. Long story short, we get a file every year from the school district that gets uploaded into our tax software, and it adds all of the delinquent school taxes that are still outstanding that have been provided by Hudson City School District into our taxing database. There was an error in the file that they provided in 2019. There was a property that had a delinquent school tax. It was miscoded in the file that they provided us, and therefore never got uploaded to our taxing system, and it never got attached to the property to which it belonged. As opposed to, you know, real world where you know, maybe you didn't get your tax bill, but you can go online and you can see if it's online. You can go online at the school district. You can go online at the city website. You can call our office. You can call the school district. You have at least 4 different ways to find out if you have an outstanding tax bill. In this case, the taxpayer had no ability to do that because the tax bill did not exist. And in fact, they called our office multiple times and asked if they had any outstanding taxes and were told no, because that bill just did not exist in the system. So I did speak with Andy Howard, and I would be happy to also spend some time speaking with Crystal. But the general assessment was we cannot hold that taxpayer responsible for penalties from 2019 until now, because we only discovered this problem about a month or 2 ago, and then immediately sent them notification that they did have this outstanding bill. So if they spend 3 years asking if they have outstanding taxes and are told no, because that's what the database is telling us, that's a very different situation than somebody that didn't bother to look up their tax bill. So what this resolution does is basically asking the council to waive the interest that has accrued since the time that the tax bill came over to the city for collection. It does not waive the principal. It does not waive the penalty that the school attaches to the bill before they give it to the city for collection. And it does not waive the 5% fee that by law is also attached to the bill via New York state law, because that is what the city receives basically for taking on the burden of doing the collection of the school taxes. All it does is waive the penalty that accrued between the time it was available and now, because they were not aware, not only that they were not aware that there was a bill, they were explicitly told that that was not a bill and there was no bill in the system.
Okay, thank you, Heather. We'll discuss that if we have to when we get to the resolution, if there's any questions. Thank you for your report. Any questions from the council members?
No.
You're not the only one.
Hi.
Vic?
Yeah, I have a question about the last part Heather just explained us. Can I ask or no?
Go ahead. I mean, we can talk about it now or when we actually look at the resolution.
Well, now that we have Heather, I was wondering if we have any system in place that double checks that the taxes, the right taxes were sent. Do we have anything, or the school, or do you coordinate with the school? What is happening?
I mean, I would like to say it's foolproof, but it is clearly not. Basically, we are dependent on the assessor, because ultimately the assessor is responsible for making sure that so basically when it comes to regular city and county taxes, we get a file from Real Property Services of the county. That file in turn is based on the information that the city assessor provides to the county-wide Real Property Services database. We have no control over that. We have no visibility over that. We have learned over a period of time that once they basically put a pin in it, any changes that they make don't show up in the database. So we do now keep a record of all the property transfers that we are provided that happen after a certain date. And we go back in and we check the database every year to see if in fact, if the property transfer changed after the database was created, we will go and manually change it. The problem is that our manual changes only last until the next database comes from the county. So if that property address continues to not be corrected, it overwrites the actual correction that we made and puts it back to the old thing again. In the case of the school bill, it was a property tax ID that ended up with a weird, you know, so that's your like 100/600.110.53-1-2, you know, however your property is identified. For whatever reason that no one has been able to explain, on this particular property, there was a weird addition added to that property ID, which means it didn't match anything anywhere. And it was just sort of floating out there. And, you know, we don't have a whole lot of control over that, unfortunately. So, you know, every time something like this happens, we try and put another control in place. But ultimately, we're reliant on the data that were provided by the other entities.
Okay.
Great.
Any other- Oh, all right. Did you have more, Vicki? Any other questions from council members? Okay, thank you. Oh, from the public. Okay, we'll move right along. Rob, you're back. Thank you, Heather.
Okay, thanks. Sorry. This operating system just randomly shuts down to do some kind of diagnostic. Anyway, so I guess I left off at the price of the chemicals up 300%. One of the other things, there'll be a budget amendment resolution next week. It is not available right now. It is not on the screen right now. It will be available next week because I'm working through. It turns out in the 2023 water budget, there were some of the fields were combined. So values were put into some accounts and other line items had zero balances. So I just need to move the money around so that way we have the appropriation in each of the accounts. So you'll see that next Tuesday when it's complete. Also, we applied for a WIA grant, water improvement infrastructure grant last summer to put new water mains in Robinson and North 3rd Street. And we received a notification from EFC that we did not score high enough to be in the money. So that is pretty much that. DPW year end, the crunch was on. So this was a restoration of a new water valve. You can see the valve in the ground. This is a mesh with chairs. The chairs hold the mesh up and then in comes the concrete. The mesh is there to reinforce the concrete and make it more pliable. That's so that's, you know, pretty much the end of the projects for outside. We shift inside. So right now, one of the projects is last year or earlier this year, new floats were purchased for the docks. So we bring the docks in one by one. We have to remove some of the slats to access the floats. And then we take the floats out, old one here, new one there. You can see the scaling that's all around this float is actually zebra mussels. And so they were around all of the floats. At that point, once it's complete, we load it up on a trailer, bring it down and swap them out. We should be finished probably this month with this project. The Ferry Street Bridge. So, you know, back here, this is the pole that's in question. It's sideways, sorry. But this here it is. This is the pole. This needs to kind of come over here where you see I put this black mark onto the property for Amtrak, and this gas service, which runs along the bridge, needs to also come over here. You know, this past month, the mayor was instrumental in getting us meetings with Senator Gillibrand's office and Senator Hinchy's office, who will be our new state senator on January 1st. And, you know, both of those, we were able to go through the issues between Amtrak and National Grid, and I believe they were reaching out on our behalf. I have heard from Creighton Manning, our engineer, that according to Amtrak and National Grid, that the documents are complete. They're just being circulated for signatures amongst those two agencies. What that means in terms of a timeline, I have no idea, but you know, hopefully with all the efforts that we're getting close to advancing this project. You know, yesterday we had snow. It was forecast for about 1 to 3 inches. This is outside of my house. It was about 6 1/4. That's what happens. You know, the forecast is a forecast, and what actually falls is, you know, could be anything. So they were out most of yesterday. The crews will be out early tomorrow morning to clear and push back the other side. We do this primarily because we never know when the next event is going to happen. There's a forecast for something later this week. They say it'll be rain, but you know, there's only a couple degrees difference between rain and snow. So we have to, you know, be prepared for the worst. So they'll be out to tomorrow. And of course, with, you know, alternate side parking, it's no big deal. People just move their cars regularly and we get our job done. No need for a snow emergency or anything that drastic. And other than that, everybody have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa. That's it for my report.
Which one of those gifts is from me, Rob?
This one right here in the middle. The big one.
Oh, thank you. Any questions from the council for Rob?
I have a question.
Hi, Vicky.
I read somewhere in the report, I'm not 100% sure, you said we may have to replace the actuarials. I don't know how you call those, actuarials.
Actuators.
Actuators, yeah, it is 7,000 each, but how many are they?
Well, in the plant entirely, each filter has 4, I believe. But right now, we're just experiencing issues with 2 of them. So we have a spare and then we're replacing one. So we're ordering 2 of them.
Okay, so 2 at a time, and
Yeah.
okay. And I see that you started doing installing the speed radar, the solar one on Glenwood. When is it expected to be up?
Right, we installed the what we thought a 12-foot post, which we thought would be good enough, but between the trees that are around it, there's not enough room for the solar panel. So we had to go get a larger post, which I believe has been installed. It's 15 or 16 feet. It should be up this week, as far as I know.
Okay.
Obviously, we got delayed with the snow.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other council members?
Tom, this is Peter Bujano. Can I have a moment?
Sure, Peter, sorry.
Hello, everyone. As part of Department of Justice to address the accessibility at Oakdale Beach House, we issued a request for proposals recently, and we received 8 responses. And this is in just giving you a heads up that another resolution will be coming at the next meeting. We received 8 responses, and we created an ad hoc committee of city officials, and we shortlisted 2. And it was determined to select one of the 2. And I would like to prepare a resolution for consideration at next meeting. And I just wanted to give you a heads up. It's for the Oakdale Beach House renovation analysis and feasibility study.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from council members? How about the public?
I'm sorry, Tom. I was trying to unmute myself. Peter, I just wanted to come back to what you said. You're talking about the RFP, correct?
Yes.
For a feasibility study regarding okay, so that decision on, the decision on the organization that will do the study is what you're talking about, correct?
Yes, we did an RFP and we selected a vendor, a consultant, engineer firm, and yep.
And so that'll be coming up soon in one of our next meetings. Excellent.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other council members before I go to the public? Okay, from the public, any questions? Bill?
Is Rob still there?
Let me see, he seems to have gone, sorry.
$117,000 a year. That's what we
Okay,
get.
moving right along,
Isn't that wonderful?
please be quiet, we're.
So mature, too.
We have, on advice of council, we have a bunch of resolutions, but we're not gonna formally introduce and second them tonight. On advice of council, since we do not have a quorum present. So we will introduce them, of course, as the formal next week. But even though we won't introduce and second them, I think there's a couple we might want to discuss, and I'll leave it up to you as we go through. I'll read the different ones and you decide if you want to. And Shaheen will post them and we'll decide whether to discuss them tonight. I know we don't have to discuss the commissioner fees and we don't have to discuss the donations. Let's go to number 3. Authorize the mayor to execute a contract extension for the Indigenous Programming and Consulting Services.
Would anybody like, in the council, would anybody like to comment or ask questions? Gentlemen?
Who asked, Mike?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Michael, yeah, ask him.
Did we try for any grants yet?
No, we haven't identified any grant programs that would support this particular type of program.
Now, I tried to get on the virtual one and I had trouble, so was that recorded?
I do have recordings for both of our virtual talks, and I can make those available on the mayor's YouTube account soon.
Awesome. And then was there an evaluation afterwards? After all the programming, was there evaluation done?
No formal evaluation, but I can definitely deliver a report on Tuesday about the results and success of that.
That'd be great. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, then we have something we talked about earlier. We're amending the fee schedule for the dog impoundment fees. That'll be on next week's agenda.
Tom, is that for the fees, is that for the individuals who own the dog?
Yes.
Yeah, to the lister now versus on.
Right,
Which-
so the city.
So it won't long over.
Thank you for
Exactly,
your
long over.
Crystal,
You're
'cause that's
welcome.
been 10 years since the last time.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
The
They don't
next
even
one-
have dogs.
And then part of that, excuse me, Mr. Frick, is to renew our contract with Columbia Green Humane Society, which has been vetted by Crystal. Then we have a memorandum of agreement with the CWA local, which they're the union that our youth department workers are part of. And that authorizes them to receive the same healthcare payout that everyone else is getting at this point. The next one is a memorandum of agreement with the police department having to do with COVID pay. And we might want to discuss that if not tonight. Hello? Did someone say something?
I think somebody called.
Oh. So that's another memorandum of understanding. Then, of course, we have a renewal of the license for the dock with the Hudson Sloop Club. They're increasing their fees. They did a splendid job last year. And that's something that we'll see next Tuesday.
Tom,
Yes, sir.
don't they normally do an RFP every year though? Is that?
No, we don't have to, you don't have to.
You don't have to, okay.
Tom, just to clarify, they're not increasing their
Yeah.
fee.
Oh, yes.
The fees that are
The fees
increasing
that
are
are
the
paid
dog
for, yeah,
fees.
sorry, I
A
assumed
dog
I
was
was- I'm
an
sorry.
average fine.
I should have made that clear. The resolution is creating a dedicated funding source for burial plots in the cemetery for veterans from Columbia County. That's so it doesn't get commingled with other funds. And then we have the two resolutions that Heather explained at length. So that's what you can look forward to next Tuesday, along with all the other ones we have been promised. And for those who didn't attend in person tonight, please come next week. It's far more important than our formal. Let's see, so.
No, sorry, Tom, Margaret.
Margaret.
Yeah, so I'm very sorry. I would have attended in person. I apologize. I had other things going on. One thing I do want to bring to the fore, because we have all kinds of email problems going on right now. The legal committee, hopefully, on Wednesday is meeting. We're going to be reviewing the draft new law for the sidewalks. And I don't know how we're going to get that material. I'm thinking I have not had anything from Crystal on the subject, or because we don't have city email. We may need to produce things in hard copy and just deliver them to council members' boxes. But we do next week need to have a decision, a vote on the proposed sidewalk law. And I would,
Sorry, I didn't convert you.
sorry,
I just wanted to, we could send them to regular email. I have emails for everyone.
Oh, well, here's my problem, Tom. I am very careful about not using my personal email for any city business.
We've had ruling from council that that's not an issue right now. We obviously have to send things.
The other option is if Crystal has.
Do you, can you provide me with email addresses for all council members so that I can circulate the draft sidewalk law and the other documents that the council is going to have to vote on next week? Well, one thing I was thinking of was that if Crystal if Crystal sends me the draft documents, I could print them off and deliver them to City Hall. And then council members could retrieve these physical copies of the documents so that they can review them. But I'm kind of leery of sending things to people's private email addresses for FOIL reasons. So I think this is something, because I was hoping that as of yesterday, actually, that we would have we would have established a new email, but that hasn't happened. What do we need to do here? Because it's really important. It's really, really important for ADA reasons and DOJ reasons that by the end of this month, we have a plan in place.
Okay.
The other, the easier method is just if Crystal has her form of it, fax to Tracy.
Sorry, Ryan. Sorry. I'm trying to get you up on my screen here. Go on, Ryan.
Your way to do it is if Crystal has her version, have her fax to Tracy. We all know that the documents have to be uploaded 24 hours in advance, and we still all have internet access. So it's on all of us to check.
So Ryan, I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you. Are you suggesting?
I'll summarize what he said.
Sorry. Is
What
Ryan?
Crystal can send to Tracy the version.
Yep.
And then upload it to the website. We all have access to the website.
But which is that a public website? Are you
That's
talking?
Margaret, the same website where you were able to download the documents for this evening. That's
Yes,
where
the resident website, yeah.
Okay, so we'll get this done. Not to worry. Okay, any other council members? Wait, Dominic, what are you doing over there?
Oh, what? He's just trying to take away.
You want to say something?
Yeah,
What?
a couple things. The dog officer,
Yes.
is there a way that we can, he doesn't, whoever it is, they don't get mileage, correct?
I don't think so, no.
Is there a way, because I think we need to entice someone, because we need one. Maybe think about increasing that salary?
We actually had multiple applicants last time.
Okay. All right.
So, let's see first if anybody responds to the call when Tracy gets it, because he hasn't formally quit yet, I don't believe.
Right. Well, his contract's at the end of this month.
Right, so we'll get it in place. As you know, it's by law.
Yeah, right, that's what I mean, yeah,
I hope
right.
everybody understands, you have to have it.
Right, that's what I'm saying, we don't want to, be backs against the wall where now we're saying we're gonna increase it after the fact.
Right.
But another thing is, as you're thinking about ad hoc committees for next year, if we can do something with, looking into parking in terms of, the feasibility of having a parking department.
Well, that's gonna be, I don't know if you saw the first version of the parking study.
Yeah.
But all that's gonna be on the table, so we will definitely be having even more so a task force to actually do things with what we get from the parking study.
Great, okay.
So that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
come January.
because the technology also.
We actually have, we actually have the final in place, but we wanted to wait till January when, with the new start and everything.
Awesome.
To get the parking.
Good news.
But yes, you're right on target with that.
Thank you.
Mr. Frick.
I was wondering if there was actually an update regarding anything email related.
either.
We're in the queue with Microsoft for, to make the transfer over to 365. It just takes a while for them to verify our information to
Yep.
get it happening, so
Cool.
hopefully the next few business days.
Okay, Ron Kapnicki has his hand up. Ron?
Wait, Tom, I think I have a question too. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry, Ron, hold on a second. Go ahead, Vicky.
A comment about the letter from CAC. I'm very skeptical of having all these new trees next year without anyone to take care of them properly, and relying on homeowners to detect and cure potential tree diseases. To me, it seems unrealistic. And I strongly suggest that we hire a seasonal part-time tree care expert, let's say 10 hours a week, for spring, summer, and fall. So things are done, right, and we don't run into problems. I don't want to see 25 trees dying.
Have allocated in this year's budget $15,000 for an advisor, for a consultant who could easily be the person who handles this, deals with trees.
Right.
I would like to echo this, and this came up a year ago before I was on the council. The idea of having a Parks Department director, and I think that the memo from Hillary, the communication to us was very clear, and I completely support the position that she had taken. And I think it is in the interest and benefit of the city to have a focus on really having someone who is responsible for our parks. So I want to voice a vote in favor of looking at what Hillary is presenting.
Sure, we're in favor of it already. I mean, it's
Yes.
not really controversial.
I mean, there are so many people in Hudson who are volunteering their time and their effort to enhance our parks and to control them. And I think that having a designated individual who could coordinate those efforts is not a huge lift. And I think it would be a great benefit to the city. And I completely endorse what Hillary has presented.
Thank you, Margaret. Now, any other council members? Ron, you're up.
Yes, thank you. I have a technical question about the email crisis. While it's going on, is it permissible to contact public officials by texting their city hall telephone numbers?
We won't receive text messages that way.
You won't? Okay, because I did try it.
What do you mean, you texted the city hall number?
Yeah, for example, I discovered the crisis on that very Friday because I sent Mr. Hoffman an email about a technical issue, and I got this bounce back, and I was wondering what was going on. So a few days later, I called the phone number too and left a message. But I understand that everyone's very busy, and this is what time of year it is. And then I thought, hey, what if I send a text to the City of Hudson Merrill Assistant telephone number? But you won't get it if I do that.
No, that's a landline. You're not gonna get any texts in landline.
Okay, all right.
There
So
are
you don't-
there are actually services that will do that, but Ron, we're not set up for that to be able to do the text.
Okay.
To the
So I was
main-
wondering if you had the number on your phones or what was involved, So I understand that won't work. And
Ronald, one thing, last week I was trying to address some issues with the clerk's office, and the clerk's office has actually set up a Gmail account that is specifically with relation to, so that it's kind of a separate Gmail account. I think it's City of Hudson 2022 foil. I can ask them the exact name, but they have set up a specific email account to address the ability of individuals being able to contact City Hall during this period. But unfortunately, none of us have city phone numbers. My phone number that you have called me on is my personal phone number.
Right.
It's not a city
But-
phone.
But all the city phone numbers are landline.
Right. Yeah,
Okay,
right. So the city phone numbers are landlines, but the city, Tracy and Sherry have set up a specific Gmail email for residents to contact. And I'll check with Sherry tomorrow and get that to you. So that in the event that you want to send an email to the city, you can do that. But unfortunately, you cannot send me on city business an email. You
No.
can, right? And I don't have a city phone number. And I don't like to use my personal
Move
email
along here.
for one reason. So, yeah,
Thank
but
you.
that's where we are.
Okay, and I would just like to add one other thing with regard to the resolution about sidewalks. I hope this is posted as soon as possible.
That's
Yes.
sidewalks. You mean the law that's gonna?
Yes, I hope this is posted as soon as possible before next week's meeting, so that the public has an opportunity to read it and print it and can be fully informed about it before any discussion and votes may occur.
But we can't actually pass it at the next meeting. It's a
Okay,
law.
but it will be discussed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank-
moving up.
I just, Tom, can I have the floor for a minute?
Okay, who's this?
Crystal.
It's Chris Jones. Hello.
Okay. Okay.
I just want to go back to the email conversation. It's been more than 10 days that Rackspace has not had an email for the city. And I think, we, as sad as it is, we all depend a great deal on email. And just saying that we're working on it is kind of, I don't know many businesses that would put up with 10 days with no email. And I wonder if you could kind of elaborate ways that we could expect the city to be really working on this, because I've had 4 occasions this week to not be able to contact people who I need to speak to in the city, and they don't have an email, they didn't get it. So of course it relies on phone calls, which is back to the old days. But I do think it's kind of a long time for the city of Hudson to not be able to communicate with each other using the method that we have come to rely on in 2022. I know just dealing with Microsoft sounds like, it sounds like it'll never happen. Can we switch to another platform? Should we be thinking about an intervention? I think that the council needs to take the lead on this. And can you maybe articulate what we might expect?
I think that's a really valid question. Thank you very much.
Can I just talk to this
Yeah,
for
somebody
a
who actually
second?
knows about technology, explain.
All right, so there's a couple of conflating issues here. So one is, and I'm going to get technical since that seems to be what people want to hear. But
Yes.
there's two kinds of email systems. One is an old way of doing things, which relies on a physically hosted server that exists somewhere, right? And that's what currently was deployed and currently was working perfectly for years. All right. At Rackspace, the current issue at hand is the security and infrastructure that they have within their hosting systems were compromised, creating a considerable security threat throughout all of those hosted systems. So there's really, outside of that system going down, like that triggered the response that the city and the mayor's office acted on just about as quickly as they could in terms of rectifying the matter. So what's happening now is that legacy system is getting transferred into a cloud-based system, which is what Microsoft Office 365, it's what Gmail, it's a similar structure to like Gmail and all of those other things. But what's the problem and what the holdup is that there's literally thousands and thousands of customers that rely on that legacy system. So when outages of such magnitude happen like that, that creates a queue of accounts that need to then be transferred out. So there's already, everything that we can do is already being done. This is no different
than a similar security incident that happened earlier this year by a software provider called Atlassian, who is a massive, massive billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars of company, where all of their systems went down, and it took literal weeks for customers to become reinstated. So while it appears as though the city of Hudson is doing nothing, we're literally doing all that we can, because there's two things. We have to get our info and data out of the old system and then into the new system. And unfortunately, that's happening at a time when literally thousands of other customers are doing the same thing. So while Rackspace is working as quickly as they can to rectify these issues, there's still just going to be that lag. So again, reiterating what I think Margaret touched on, there is the old pick up the phone and call thing. Personally, I'm public on Facebook, so if anybody needs anything, you can just reach out to me there. But yeah, that's kind of the lay of the land and technically what's happening. But there's not a whole lot we can do.
I appreciate that, and I can understand the magnitude of that transition, and I appreciate the clarity that is happening. That's really helpful. I wonder if there isn't a way for you to set up some.
Sorry, you cut out there.
All right, why does the Department of Youth work?
Sorry.
They're on a different.
I don't appreciate it. Wait, hold on. I don't appreciate that I keep getting muted by somebody because I'm not speaking and I have no noise in my background. I appreciate what you said and I understand. I don't know, maybe that's the problem too, but I appreciate what you've said and I really respect the amount of work that you're doing to make this transition. I wonder, however, if, and picking up the phone is my particular milieu, that's how I operate. But there's a lot of people who really need to communicate with each other in a city government. And is there not some sort of like secondary way that we could communicate in an easy way? Margaret tried to point out, my email, personal email, we don't want that. Is there not something that you could set up that would route email to people who need to be communicated with that we could use in the interim while you sort out the complicated aspect of reconfiguring the city email?
So I would like to say,
Can you hold on, Margaret, just for a second?
Art, can I say something very basic to that?
Just hold on 1 second, Margaret. I want to answer the question at hand. So in operating in a city government, what makes it really complicated for doing things like that is all of the laws requiring around things like reporting, right? So if you go to any, I think that there's a world where we could have, say, different systems in place, like some organizations utilize Slack, things like that. But those things are really, really difficult to do in a government setting, because of all of the requirements surrounding all of them. So I 100% hear what you're saying. And I think that's a great idea looking forward, having, multiple systems that can work somewhat in concert to reduce the magnitude of overall downtime. But setting up those systems in a government capacity is not something that's quick.
Okay. When do you anticipate that you will have it set up?
I'm sorry, can you let me speak? Art? So can you hear?
Go for it, Margaret.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so last week I was trying to deal with some stuff, dealing with Sherry and Tracy and so forth, communicating this to the press about various meetings that were changed and so forth. And Sherry had set up an interim Gmail account, Hudson City 2022 foil or something like that, a dedicated Gmail account, so that I could send things to her that would be in a Gmail account that should anybody want to foil anything relating to business, she could retrieve any emails. So what I would like to ask is, why cannot all of the council members and Tom, all 11 of us, set up an interim Gmail account, separate from our personal Gmail accounts, just set up a separate account that is specific to dealing with the issue at hand, so that our constituents can communicate with us, so that we can use that account to send things to the city, and that we can have a kind of a enclosed set of emails, communications, so that should anybody want to do a file, they can do a file, and we can pull all of any communication that's going on during this time from those email accounts. Why can we not get together and do that? And I think that would address the question that has been raised here. Because the city of Hudson has in fact set up a emergency Gmail file account. So why don't all of us do the same thing?
Okay.
Why is that a problem?
The problem, Michael? In your view?
The only problem is capacity. We don't have the tech capacity to be able to set up individual email accounts for every single person in the city as a backup when we're already in the process of restoring our existing accounts.
Yeah,
but we would also have to advertise those new emails across platforms as well.
Right.
So it's, I completely sympathize, but I think we just need to wait.
Michael, I'm not suggesting that the city set up the email accounts. I am suggesting that me as a private person goes onto Gmail and
Margaret, there's nothing that's stopping you from doing that.
no, but why can we not put out a thing that says every member of the Common Council go onto Gmail, set up a Gmail account specific to your work at the city, so that you can communicate and, you know, only use this for city work, communicate this, send all emails back and forth, allow constituents to email you at this account, so that we have everything. So like I have documents I need to send to the city. I can't send them because I'm not sending them my private account. I'm planning to print them off and walk them over to the city tomorrow, because I'm not going to send things to my private account. Why can we not all just set up in this interim period, Gmail accounts or whatever account we want, where it's dedicated to our work for the city? Michael doesn't have to set it up. We can do this as individuals. What's the problem here?
Sorry, Dylan?
If you were going to, if I could just jump in real quick, Tom, if that's okay.
Please do, please.
So aside from the fact that, you know, you are going to have individual accounts, and obviously anyone can individually set up a separate account and
Yes.
email it over to, you know, use email with Tracy and so on and so forth. The other issue with that too, which is something that would need to be discussed internally, is that all of those emails that are official are going to need to be preserved as well.
Exactly.
And transferring all of that information back on, you know, back to the city to be preserved and to be kept, not just for FOIL, but also for, you know, if there's litigation reasons or whatever it may be. That can get kind of complicated when you've got, you know, 11 or so many different people setting up individual accounts with individual passwords. It just can get a little bit complicated that way. So I would say that there definitely would need to be some internal discussions before that was made, you know, a matter of practice during this interim period.
Good point.
Totally agree.
I think
Also,
okay.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how to raise my hand, but I agree with all of this, and I think it's good problem solving. And Margaret is onto a big problem. I mean, we all need to communicate with you as our representatives, but also Heather Campbell is not able to take email over this whole period, and there's lots of people trying to communicate with her, having to do with their taxes, their school taxes, their city bills, their whatever. And I tried to reach out to her 2 times and she didn't get my email. So it's larger than just the council, and we all know that. And I guess we need some kind of an estimate for what it's going to be until the city will have worked this out, so that the email can be back into regular function. And maybe there's a projection, maybe you don't know, but I think it would be helpful to kind of keep us all abreast of what it's gonna take to bring it back. That's all. I mean, we know that, problems happen, so that's all I'm asking. What is the timeline for the city's regular email to be rebooted? I guess is the question.
It will be a few business days before that happens, and we'll be prioritizing getting the new system up and running before getting the archived email back in as well. So,
So what I didn't hear you say that again.
A
It's
few
hard to
business
hear
days.
in the larger. A few days.
A few business days, yeah.
So by like next Monday, you think email will be back functioning normally?
That's my goal.
What?
So Michael, we have a meeting on Wednesday. A legal committee meeting where we have a number of documents that we need to review. Should I print them off and bring them over to City Hall? Because I had hoped that things would be up and running today, but that does not seem to be the case. Do I need to print everything off and bring it to City Hall tomorrow?
Hey, Margaret, I think probably the fail-safe method here would be to physically deliver the documents to Tracy. And she can scan them and upload them to the website, and then we'll all have them.
I think that's actually, Art, that's a very good plan. Because then they'll be available to the public. I can walk them over and she can scan them, upload them. I think that's actually a very good plan. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's why we said before.
Thanks, Dewan.
Thank you, Dewan.
Okay.
And failing that, Art, I will handwrite them out in the old 1960s way.
I expect perfect cursive, Margaret, perfect cursive.
Yeah, in longhand with ink. I'll do the whole 9 yards.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
Motion to close.
Second motion to adjourn.
No. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to adjourn, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're gonna have a longer meeting next week because of all those resolutions we're gonna have to introduce and discuss.
Better bring some pizza.
Last time he didn't order it.
Dominoes.
Wow, that's never gotten old.
Thumbs up is the tweeters.
Either was down at the donkey during the season. I eat every time I voice every morning. Like one of my family members.